everything.
It's everything.
Welcome back to the Emajae Talks Everything podcast, where I talk politics, I talk pop culture, and everything there is in between. Hey y'all, I am Emajae. And before we get too far in, make sure that you like this video. Make sure that you are commenting, leaving your thoughts and your opinions, because I am giving a lot of mine. So I would like to hear, how y'all feeling about my opinions, okay? And of course, most importantly, make sure you're subscribing, okay? Every single week, I'm seeing the views, but I'm not seeing the subscribers, and I'm calling you out, okay? I'm calling you out. So make sure that you subscribe. Make sure if you are listening on one of the many listening platforms that you follow so that you can stay in touch with what I'm running my mouth about, okay? I really just want to get into it because there is a lot that I want to talk about. And oh, by the way, happy summer. Summer is here. And let me tell you, this past weekend, it was so not nice how hot it was outside. It was so unpleasantly hot outside. Like, that is the true indicator. When I have to avoid the outside, that's how you know. Cardi said we outside, but I'm not sure, sis. I'm not sure. Not with this heat. I'm not so sure. But anyway, long story short, happy summer. And let's go ahead and get into everything in the news. So I am going to start with acknowledging the fact that over the past weekend, this administration, our current administration, made some moves, did some things. Now, if you know what you should know, unless you're living under a rock, then you should know how serious this is. I'm not going to address it in this video. I'm not going to go into it in this video because it would truly take a lot of time for me to break down all that I think about what's happening in this administration, particularly from a foreign relations perspective. And so I'm sure I will talk about it, but just not in this video. With that being said, PSA, this is not a game, y'all. This is not a game. This is not a joke. I'ma leave it at that, okay? On a completely different note, I want to start off with talking about the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. So everybody knows that the Dallas Cowboys is one of the most popular, I didn't say good, okay? I didn't say good. Popular NFL teams in the National Football League, right? And the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders are probably the most popular, iconic NFL cheerleading team. And for years, they have documented the process of what it is to become a Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, or they call themselves a DCC, right? What that process looks like in terms of the auditioning process, the everything from like auditioning to trying on the uniforms to the grueling exercise and practices and all the way through the season and how that takes a toll. So that has always been around. Like, that process they've had a show for years on some series. And I think it was last year, they came out with their first Netflix series that pretty much did the same thing, but we were able to get a little bit more context on some of the girls who were trying out, just a little bit more details than normal, right? But one of the main topics that came up last season was just how little those women were making in terms of salary, in terms of compensation. And come to find out, these women were making like $15 an hour, which, considering how much time and effort and work they were putting into being Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, it just made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Like, if you watch the show, then you know, but I cannot stress enough just how much time and energy and focus and like mental, physical, just impact it takes on your life, you know what I'm saying, in terms of being and becoming a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. And I feel like, as many people felt like, these women should be compensated for that. So this season, the new season of the DCC Netflix series has just premiered this past week. And around the time of the premiere, news broke that these ladies received a 400% salary raise increase. 400% salary raise increase. And listen, when I heard the news, I was obviously happy for them. Like I said, I've watched this show for years. I see just how grueling of a process this is. And to be honest, you couldn't get me to do it. Not for no $15 an hour, right? I mean, granted, this is their dream. They love it. But being honored to do something, I'm honored to be able to pay my bills. Catch that, okay? I'm honored to be able to pay my bills. And that's why they were going so long without increasing the compensation for these girls. Some of the older women who were former DCC cheerleaders would say, well, we were getting paid $15 an hour. Baby, that was in the 90s. If you were getting paid $15 an hour in the 90s, in the 80s, and it's 2020, it's 2025, that's a problem. And it's not good enough that it's an honor to be a part of this team. That's not gonna cut it. And I really related to that because I remember for many different periods of my life, I had the opportunity to work at different places that were pretty notable places, right? And there were times, especially when I was in school, right, internships, things of that nature, where people would just tell you it's an honor to have this internship. It's an honor to gain this experience. Look at what it'll do for your resume. While that is true, people should be able to pay their bills. While that is true, people should not be exploited, right? Because that's really what it comes down to. You are exploiting my labor and you want me to be okay with it because it's an honor to be here. I worked to be here. It's not only just an honor, but I deserve to be here because I put in the time, the energy, and the work. And obviously, if you've chosen me for this position, I'm qualified, right? So pay me and I can be honored. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And I just was happy. Like I said, I was happy to hear that they got a pay increase. It went from $15 an hour, which I read an article, and let's see, everybody was reporting on this. ESPN, New York Times, Cosmo, as in Cosmopolitan. And let's see, yeah, one of the cheerleaders revealed that the DCC paid her the same amount as a full-time Chick-fil-A worker. No shade to Chick-fil-A workers, right? No shade. But once again, if we are going to compare what these women go through for months at a time to that of a Chick-fil-A worker, there is no comparison. That's just not okay. And they don't have health insurance. So a lot of these women are still going to be working multiple jobs. A lot of these women are still going to be, balancing it all. I just am happy that they are finally being compensated, but it's just not cool. And I don't give the Dallas Cowboys any type of credit for finally paying these women what they deserve to get paid. In my eyes, you don't get credit for doing the right thing. You don't get credit for doing what you're supposed to do. You don't get credit for doing the correct thing. You just don't, in my opinion. And I was reading on ESPN, it said that the Cowboys have been the most valuable pro sports team. Valuable, not the best. We know, if y'all know that Dallas Cowboys record, they have been the most valuable pro sports team in the world for almost a decade, according to Forbes magazine. That number was $10.1 billion in rankings published late last year. So here you have the most valuable, or one of the most valuable pro sports teams in the world. And you're telling me that you could only afford to pay these girls $15 an hour? And then within 1 year after you get all of this backlash, all of a sudden you can give them a 400% raise? Like it doesn't add up. But the good news is this is why sometimes it does pay to voice your opinion and call people out. Call people out, because the Cowboys, they're not that great. They're not that great. They're not above reproach, and people should be calling them out for exploiting these women who definitely have been deserving more money for years. So shout out to the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. I'm gonna leave it at that because I was really about to go into the Dallas Cowboys themselves, and I'm not even gonna do that because I know there's some Dallas Cowboys fans watching. I'm not even trying to give y'all that hate this episode. Okay, let's move on. And I'm just gonna talk about this man literally for a quick minute. But we gotta talk about Nick Cannon, okay, quickly, because there's just not much to say. Except for the fact that I was just minding my business, right? Chilling, scrolling on social media. And I see Nick Cannon and he's like in this yoga position. So I'm like intrigued. I'm like, okay, cool. Like he's being interviewed like while doing yoga. So I check out the video. Tell me why the interviewer asked Nick Cannon to name all of his kids. Now, if you don't know, Nick Cannon is an actor, he's a writer, he's a comedian. I mean, he is truly a jack of all trades. He's been around forever. And within like the past few years, he went from having twins with Mariah Carey, his ex-wife, shout out to the queen, to having upwards of 12 kids. And all of these kids he had like right after each other. Some of these kids he was having like at the same time, like literally having maternity shoots or like pregnancy shoots or whatever with different women at the same time. Like, do you know how messed up that is? Like, that is so trifling. Like, that is so trifling. And Nick Cannon lost me a long time ago, especially during that season, because I think it's just completely irresponsible. And it just is. I don't care how much money you make, time is invaluable. And the more kids that you have, especially when you're having these kids in multiple different homes with no intention whatsoever of keeping them together, that's just irresponsible. But when I saw the video, right, he was going down the list and I think he made it to like maybe 8 kids, which I mean, hey, he was 2/3 of the way. But it just irritated my absolute soul because I just cannot understand why would you have that many kids to the point where you can't even remember them all? You know, and then people love to talk about men love to make this argument. Well, he's rich, he's paying the bit. Like, what do y'all not understand? The more kids that he has, the less each kid gets in terms of money. And how is he gonna work all of these jobs and be with these kids? Nick Cannon is the perfect example of what happens when people just completely lose a concept of what it means to really bring children into this world and the responsibilities associated with that, the time associated with that. And it's just not cool to me. It's just not cool. When I saw that, I was like, I don't understand why he thinks it's funny. I think he was giggling, like he thought it was cute, and it's just not. And it irritated my soul. That's really all I have to say about that. Honestly, I just had to put on the record how much Nick Cannon irritated my soul this week. So there's that. In other news, speaking of kids and speaking of my soul, someone this week brought so much joy to me. I was once again scrolling, okay? Scrolling. And I saw Stephen A. Smith's daughter interrupt one of his interviews. So if you do not know, Stephen A. Smith is one of the most iconic sports commentators to ever exist. I mean, hate him, love him, agree with him, disagree with him. He is one of the most animated, entertaining voices in sports. And his daughter has gone viral this past week because she interrupted one of his interviews and she just had this natural, funny personality. And every single time I would see her, it was a different clip of her with her dad and like being in these interviews within the past week and just making him so uncomfortable. And it's so hilarious because, for example, she did this impersonation of her father. And like, she had she looks just like him. So she had the mustache and she had all of the things. And it was just hilarious because one thing that I enjoy more than anything else in the world is irritating my parents. I I love irritating my parents, and it's all in fun, right? Like, they love you and you like, but I really feel like no one can irritate a parent more out of love, right? It's all fun. But you could just see, like, every time she would come on camera, you could see how proud of her he was. And you could also just see, like, who runs the pants there, right? Like, since she was born, you can tell that that is the one person who, snap of a finger, he doesn't play about. And for Stephen A. Smith to be quiet and not have nothing to say says a lot. But every time she was in one of those interviews, he was like, this is her show. And I just love it. It was good to see. If you haven't seen those videos, I recommend you just go search Stephen A. Smith's daughter if you want a good laugh, because I was keying for like a good minute just watching her, especially when she was impersonating her father. That was the funniest. That was so funny. So those are a few things that have been happening in the news. Like I said, DCC, shout out to y'all. I'm glad y'all got y'all's check. Shame on you, Dallas Cowboys, for exploiting them for as long as you did until the public pressured you to do something different. Nick Cannon, learn your kids' names. Let's start there. And shout out to Stephen A. Smith and his daughter. With that, we are going to move from everything in the news to everything on my mind. Now, this is where I think it's going to get good, to be honest. So what's been on my mind recently, like not even just this week, but recently in general, I've been thinking a lot about relationships and all kinds of relationships, right? Specifically for this video, we're going to talk about friendships because that's specifically what's been more on my mind within the past week, just because of a video that I'm going to bring up in just one second. But just in general, I've been thinking about relationships, how they evolve, my place in different relationships, and how I show up in them, how people show up for me, vice versa, just all of the things that has really been on my mind lately. And so this past week, there's this video that went viral, and it just had so many different aspects to the video that I was like, I have to talk about this on the podcast because it's just so many different jump off points that we can really get into. So the video is a video. Do y'all know who B. Simone is? Do y'all know? I feel like she's one of those people, like, you either know her or you don't. So just starting from context, there is this actress, online comedian personality, and her name is B. Simone, or at least that's what she goes by, right? And she essentially became famous on the internet years ago for making a journey towards being a millionaire. That was legit her whole thing. She was like, I'm gonna be a millionaire one day. I'm gonna manifest it, manifest. And she manifested her way to $1 million. Okay. She also became famous for going viral for saying that she would never date a man who worked a 9-to-5. She will only date entrepreneurs. So she went viral for that comment. We can talk about that another day. She also but she's also heavily known for basically thirsting behind the rapper DaBaby. She has always been obsessed, always been like, one day I'm gonna marry that man. I'm manifesting it. When I tell you I am disgusted by that man. But that is another. So those are the reasons why she has become relevant over the years, right? She's also known quite a bit for being in a lot of controversy. So, for example, like I said, she was all about manifestation. She's going to manifest $1 million. She's going to manifest being married to DaBaby. And so it got to a point where that became her brand. She became associated with manifestation, crystals, all of the things, right? And she came out with this book. And The book was apparently supposed to be like exercises and like an interactive book, workbook of her practices that she did to manifest. And apparently she created it. Come to find out, the whole entire book was plagiarized, right? Creators, different people got wind of this book and they were like calling her out. Like, this is literally something that I post on my website. This is something that I created. So she got in controversy for basically plagiarizing a manifestation book. She also was in controversy because she had a friend who is pretty well-known celebrity, and the friend had passed away. And she put on her Instagram story, if you want to see my thoughts and feelings and how I'm dealing with this, like I'm up in arms, I'm crying, I'm all of this, but you can pay to see basically me grieve my friend. And of course, she got controversy and backlash for that, because it's like, why are you trying to profit from your grief? Why are you trying to profit from the passing of anybody, not to mention someone that you considered a friend, right? So canceled number 2. Then, and this is the most context that you need for this particular video or this conversation, she was on a podcast. She had a podcast with her ex-best friend, Megan Ashley. And the name of that podcast was Know For Sure Podcast. Megan Ashley was not a celebrity. She wasn't online. She was just one of B. Simone's friends. Like, she was just usually behind the scenes. And when they joined the podcast, that was Megan Ashley's first time being in front of the camera. Over time, and this is just my theory because I did watch the podcast, over time, it became super apparent that Megan Ashley was the star of that podcast. Like, one thing I don't like is people who can't have a real conversation, right? And so B. Simone is a comedian, but one thing that frustrated me a lot about that podcast is sometimes they would try to have real conversations and B. Simone would make just the stupidest jokes at the worst times. And it's like, you have to know when it's time to make a joke and when it's time to just be real. And I think Megan Ashley was the perfect balance of that. And I could see, and I think the audience saw and felt that tension started to brew between the two. And my theory was, I always felt like B. Simone was kind of a hater. Like, just from a lot of the comments that she would make on the podcast, like sometimes you have to read in between the lines. And I always kind of got the sense that she wasn't really happy about the fact that Megan Ashley was gaining so much favor with the audience that really she was grandfathered into. Like, B. Simone was the name that we initially came for, but we were staying for Megan Ashley. And it became really, really apparent that there was some beef. So long story short, they ended their podcast, they ended their friendship, right? And Megan Ashley has since then done her own thing, her own podcast is thriving. She didn't talk about the friendship breakup or anything. She just moved on. B. Simone, she also started a new podcast, which is what we're going to talk about today. It's called Let's Try This Again. And it was really shady the way she did it. When she announced it, it was like, she basically shaded Megan. Again, left a bad taste in my mouth and I think the audience's mouth, because it's like, this is your ex-best friend and you're already taking steps to shade her. It just, you can see when people move funny. Like, you just get a sense of who people are when they're no longer friends with somebody, right? And that's a telltale sign of your character already. So anyway, let's talk about B. Simone's new podcast, because that's really where we're taking it today. So last week, she had left the BET Awards and went straight to shooting a podcast with this woman named Shekinah. Apparently, Shekinah is, I guess, her new best friend, because they were calling each other best friend, whatever, the whole time. So interesting. But they were talking and Shekinah was basically talking about how people expect that when you are friends with a celebrity that like you have it made. Like, there's just this expectation, or that she was talking about, that there was this expectation rather, that when you are close to someone, best friends with someone that is a celebrity, that has money, people assume that you're good. However, within the past year, she was talking about how she was on food stamps, she was on Medicaid, she had to move in with her parents, her car was repossessed, she's a single mother. And so she was listing all of these things, and she was like, that's just not how it works. And so I actually want y'all to watch, because it's very, very important that y'all watch and see what I'm talking about. So let's actually go back and watch what she said specifically, because it caused a lot of controversy, Shekinah's point, and considering that B. Simone and Shekinah are best friends, a lot of people were confused, like, girl, if your best friend is B. Simone, who is the celebrity, who does have money, because remember, this is Miss I Manifested Millions, right? Why would you still be in a position where all of these things are happening to you? But it was the way she kind of presented the framework of it that had people up in arms. So I actually want us to watch it. Let's see. Oh yeah, here we go. All right.
Being a best friend with a celebrity, everybody thinks that, oh, because you're connected to this person, then your life is just as grand as theirs, or you got
it, or they helping you.
Baby, didn't have a job, living with my parents, a single mom. All this happened to me this past year.
Jesus.
And then it's like, to not have resentment in my heart towards you, because I saw you do this for other people. I saw you give a check to somebody to help them through whatever they went through. And it's like, God, like, nobody didn't give me a handout, but guess what? That wasn't your responsibility. God had to take me through that for my own season, for my own thing. I had to get my car repossessed.
Jesus.
I had to go through the food stamps line. I had to be on Medicaid, because whatever I'm building my story too. But it's like, as a friend, somebody who has it, it's hard to digest. They're probably shocked that I'm even saying this right
now. That was hard to watch. I'm gonna be honest. That was hard to watch. What did y'all think about that? What do you think about what she said in that video? Because when I watched the video, I truly felt so bad for Shekinah. I felt like she was gaslighting herself. And I took notes. And y'all know when I bring out the notes that I'm serious, right? So, okay, the first thing I thought was, number one, why was B. Simone saying Jesus? Like, she was saying Jesus like it was the first time that she was hearing that her best friend was going through any of this. And I know when I first watched it, I was like, oh, she can't possibly be talking about B. Simone, because B. Simone is sitting there talking about some Jesus. Girl, what? Like, girl, she talking about you. She's referring, you are the celebrity friend that she's talking about who has it and did not help her out. She's literally talking about you. And so I don't understand this whole, like, sitting there acting shocked and confused, like you don't know what your best friend has gone through the past year, especially when she's been going through so much. That was my first thought. The second thing is, Shekinah made this statement, and the statement that she made really is the core part of all of this that has really been on my mind this past week. She made the statement about how, you know, I went through this, I went through that, but it's not your responsibility. Like, it wasn't B. Simone's responsibility to step in and offer her help. When I tell you, I couldn't disagree anymore. I couldn't disagree anymore. And the reason being is, when we talk about friends, right? When we talk about, this is my friend, and we're not even talking about best friend. They're best friends. So take everything that I'm about to say and multiply it by like 10, right? When I think friendship, I think about community. I think that you are someone that's in my community. That means you are in my village. And I think that regardless of whether or not there's like this formality behind what someone is or is not supposed to do, as my friend, I would hope that you would not allow me to be in a position where I have hit rock bottom and you can help, but you don't. because I feel like that is a fundamental aspect of being someone's friend, you know? And I know that when I call someone my friend, I feel like I have a responsibility to them. And that's the problem. People go around and they'll call each other friend or this or that. And they throw these labels out there and they feel like there's no responsibility or attachment there. And there absolutely is. For me, if for anyone out there who calls me their friend, they should know I consider that to be, let me not get ahead of myself. I consider that to be a responsibility friendship, right? It's a give and a take. It's both. And so if my friend is down and out, I feel like I have a responsibility as someone in their community, in their village, to step in and do the best that I can to help them get to a better place. And I would hope that they would do the same thing for me. And I just don't understand this concept of it not being your friend's responsibility to, if they can, assist you when you are at your lowest. Because I guess my thought process is, if that's not the case, right? If you don't feel like it's your job to step in and support your friends, even in the bad times, then that means you're the kind of person who's only around for the good times. And is that really a friend? Like, for me, that's not a friend. If you're only around when, you know, we're hanging out, going out, partying, or if you're only around when you feel like, I don't even know. I just feel like if you are the kind of person who is only around in one season of my life and you disappear throughout all of the other seasons of my life, I can't call you a friend. Maybe you're an associate, right? Maybe you're somebody that I know, and that's fine, because different people play different roles in your life at different times. Everybody is not, I always say, like, there's like circles, right? And so, you know, you put people in categories, but the closer you are to me, the closer and deeper you are in my circle, I do feel like you have more of a responsibility. And I would hope that you would hold me to the same thing. And I know that there were conversations, right, about, well, B. Simone, like people's other, you know, argument per se was, you know, B. Simone doesn't have a responsibility to her, because just because you have money doesn't mean that you have to come in and play Captain Sabo, you know what, every time that your friend is down and out. And I can see that perspective. Like, I definitely do think there's something to be said about not enabling someone, right, to their detriment, like saving them every single time. I also understand the point of view of being the friend that always feels like they're pouring into other people, and sometimes not feeling like that's being reciprocated. I've had friendships like that, right, where I feel like I'm giving so much, like, drop of the dime, I'm there. I put in the time, I put in the effort, I put in like all of the things. I'm the one trying to do this, I'm the one trying to do that. Oh, you're having like, I've had friendships, plenty of friendships before, where because I'm naturally just that person, I'm naturally just kind of the person who will give you like it all. But sometimes that energy is not reciprocated. I understand the argument that maybe B. Simone is just putting up boundaries. And so from her perspective, maybe it was more so not about not wanting to help her friend, but more so about her just trying to learn how to put boundaries in place and not swoop in and try to fix everyone's problems at the same time. I do get that. However, this is her best friend, and this is her friend. If there's anyone that you put all of that to the side for, I do think it's your friend. Now, if you're in a situation, and this is something that I am learning, if you're in a situation where you feel like you are giving, and that person is not reciprocating, you have to start asking yourself the question of, is this my friend? I think that's what it comes down to. Because once you decide that it is in fact a friend of yours, I think that that's where the responsibility comes into play. I just cannot imagine having the means to help out my friend and her car getting repossessed. Like, how much is a cash car? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying I would swoop in necessarily and pay for your whole life, but like my best friend, and she's a single mother. Like, it just, to me, and maybe this is, very few topics are really black and white. There's probably a lot more nuance to this conversation, but this is one of those things for me that I just feel so passionately. It's just a matter of, there's a right thing to do and a wrong thing to do. I really feel that way. And I feel like to sit there and let your friend get into a position where she is so low and have the ability to help her out of that situation and not doing so, I think it's really trifling. I do. I think it's really trifling. And I would not want that kind of friendship. I do not want the kind of friendship that is only around when things are going well, because that's unrealistic and it's just not life. Everybody has seasons in their life. There are ups and there are downs. My closest friends have been with me when I was broke, when I had some coin, when I've been happy and living my best life, and when I was absolutely not living my best life, right? Like, those are the people that I consider my close friends. It's not just about showing up when it's convenient for you. It's not just about showing up, you know, when you feel like someone's going to do something immediately for you. It's about, in totality, does this person pour into me and show up for me the way I pour into them and show up for them? And I don't think B. Simone is that person. Another thing that bothered me, and going back to that briefly, I also think there's a fair statement to the point of, that's how I define friendship. And everybody defines friendship differently. Everybody defines friendship differently. So, you know, you have to be clear about your expectations out of friendship. And I will say, like, that is not easy. It is not easy to define those type of things. That is something that I genuinely struggle with. I genuinely struggle with defining, like, this is my expectation out of you. How are you reciprocating that? How are you showing? Like, I personally have a hard time doing that, because to me, it comes off kind of confrontational. And believe it or not, your girl is actually not that confrontational. Like, I know I'm a lawyer. I know I get paid to confront people, but in my personal life, I am like not confrontational at all. And so sometimes for me, it is hard for me to address certain situations and place certain boundaries, or even defining certain things, like, this is what I expect out of you as fill in the blank. That is actually something that I'm currently actively working on. But I move from the perspective of, if I consider you a friend, I could just not see you be down and out, and I have the ability to help you and not. And I think that anybody who thinks differently, I would not define as a friend. That's just me. Another thing that really bothered me about this video is when Shakana, the friend, said something about, like, this was her season. Like, I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly what she said in terms of God, but she was like God had to let me go through this journey. Like, this was the journey that God has written for me getting my car repossessed, me doing all of this. Can y'all please, can you hear me? Can you turn the volume up? Turn the volume. Can you hear me? Okay. Can y'all please stop involving God in things that have nothing to do with God? Can y'all please? Because to say that God must have wanted you to go through this hard season with your car being repossessed and all of these things, I'm not so sure that was God. Because who's to say that God didn't place B. Simone in your life right there in front of you as your best friend, because he knew that you were about to go through a season that was of struggle. He knew that you were going to be in a season where you were unemployed, but he said, you know what, that's okay, because I'm going to place this person in your life who should be able to have your back. It's okay to hold B. Simone accountable. It is. It really is. It really is. But instead of holding your friend accountable for being a not so good friend, you're making this about what God did. Every time we go through turmoil, it's not necessarily God trying to teach us a lesson. God gives us free will. True or false? God gives us free will. So sometimes we're placing ourselves in situations that lead us into these seasons that aren't so great, right? Sometimes we're choosing to be friends with people who do not serve our best interests, or we're choosing to be around people who should be doing better by us, but we're not holding them accountable. That's us. That falls on us. That's not necessarily God, because God very well could have been the reason why you had B. Simone in your life to help support you. Maybe that was what she was there to do. And maybe she was disobeying God. We don't know, but I just feel like I just sometimes it feels like people reason everything bad that happens to them and place it on God. And I don't think that God wants us to suffer all of the time. I think that sometimes we just have to hold the people around us accountable for the ain't-ish people that they are. Simply put. There's another part of the podcast, their podcast, where B. Simone is talking about how she was jealous of Shekinah. And she talks about her jealousy of her friend on two separate occasions. One, when Shekinah was talking about her boyfriend and how she was happy with her boyfriend. And then another part where Shekinah was talking about an opportunity. So I want to actually watch that with you guys as well, so we can get a sense of the kind of person we're dealing with when it comes to B. Simone.
I have this opportunity and I called you and I told you about it. And you were just like, okay. Mm-hmm. And you called me back.
I called her right back, y'all. I was so convicted.
Like,
I was so convicted.
That doesn't make it better.
You were like, I don't like how I felt when you told me that. And I was like, what do you mean? You were like, I don't know what it is. I'm talking this out in real time. But whatever it is, I don't like what I felt. And I said, did you feel jealous?
Yeah, she did feel jealous.
And you were like, I don't think I feel jealous.
Because we went through all the emotions. She's like, are you angry? Are you sad? Are you jealous? I was like, I'm not jealous because I don't want what you have. I'm sad and I'm angry and I'm upset that I'm not doing it with me.
Yeah.
Like, we're not working together.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
And we're going to stop it right there where she says, I'm not jealous. I'm just angry that the opportunity is not with me. Because let's be real, B. Simone. Let's just be 100% real. You are jealous. You are jealous. Why does the opportunity have to involve you for you to be happy for your friend? First of all, if you wanted to work with your friend, then you should have employed her when she was unemployed. Like, that's like basic 101. Like, if you have the means to employ your friend and you want to work with her so bad, then you should have done that. You have the ability to do it and you should have done that. That's not what it was about. It's about the fact that when your friend received an opportunity, you were a hater. And that's the second part of these clips that I really want to get into when it comes to friendships and just relationships in general. But like friendships, if you are dealing with someone who is not genuinely happy for you when good things happen for you, you got to walk away. You got to walk away. So originally we were talking about people who don't stick around when you're in seasons that are tough, who are only around when things are going good. But then you also have to be mindful of the people who are only around when things are good, but they're not even happy for you for real. Maybe they're around because they feel like they're going to benefit. Maybe they're, there's all kinds of praying spirits and stuff around people quite a bit. And sometimes they will label themselves as your friends, but I don't believe that you can really be someone's friend if you are not genuinely happy for them when good things are happening in their life. And when I saw that clip, I was thinking to myself, this is exactly reminiscent of what I think happened with her and Megan Ashley. When Megan Ashley was popping off, when the audience was leaning more into Megan Ashley, B. Simone saw that. And that created a rift in their friendship and ultimately ruined their friendship and ruined their podcast. Raise your hand if you have ever dealt with a friend who you learned was a hater, who you learned was jealous of you. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Yeah, just for some context, right? I understand, and maybe this is part of the reason why this entire situation with B. Simone irritated me like tremendously. I remember my first real friendship breakup, because let me tell you, friendship breakups, they really do hurt. My first like real friendship breakup happened when I was in high school. I'll just say it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna keep it real, you know? It happened when I was in high school, and it was a best friend breakup. It was a similar situation. And I was really close with someone. We were very different. Like I explained in my last episode, I've always been the kind of person doing 1,000 different things. And my best friend just wasn't that person. Like, she did her thing, but she was more low key. And we got to our senior year, and senior year is really that time where, you know, if you were doing a lot, if you were making good grades, if you were involved, like, that's the time where it's pretty fun, because, you know, you're going and you're visiting different colleges and you're getting all these different opportunities and scholarships and all of the things. That's what was happening for me. And I just feel like around that same time, I don't know if it was like hitting her, like that she hadn't done nothing the whole time. I don't really know, but I really started to feel like I can't even go to my best friend and tell her about these accomplishments, because I can tell that she's not excited for me. I can tell, you know, that she doesn't want to hear it and that she's jealous, you know? And at the time, when that's actually your friend, you don't put that label on it. You don't necessarily call it jealousy because it's still your friend. But looking back now and just knowing everything that happened after, yeah, she was a hater. She was really just a hater. And she ended up really just not liking me, not because of anything that I did to her, but just being directly next to and around someone who is excelling when you're in a season where maybe you're not. She couldn't handle, and she was a real hater. And I hate to say that, but that's just the reality of what that situation was. And we just ended up not being friends after that. We tried, but it was just never the same after like a final situation. And I just remember my feelings just being so hurt, because I was like, well, dang, what am I supposed to do, right? Like, I'm not gonna ever not be my best so that I can have friends, you know? I'm not gonna ever dim my light so that people want to be around me. That was one of the first times that I had to really realize that sometimes people will not like you because they're haters. And it's real. It's not just because your mama saying, oh girl, that girl's just a hater. It's like, that's real life. And that was my first real friendship breakup, was in high school, when I was dealing with someone who just straight up didn't like me because I was getting opportunities that she wanted and wasn't getting. And I was excelling. And that's why B. Simone rubs me the wrong way, because when your friend calls you and says, hey girl, I just got this amazing new opportunity, to say, oh, I wasn't jealous because, oh, I didn't want exactly that opportunity, I just wanted to be involved, or whatever excuse B. Simone is making, it's not okay. And people like to say that jealousy is natural. I don't think so. Like, I think we have to stop saying that. Jealousy is not natural. What is natural is desire, right? I think it's natural to maybe look at someone else's situation and recognize, like, I have a desire to be in a similar situation one day, right? Like, I'm a single lady right now. I just got done with 10 weddings, okay? I want to be married one day. But jealousy is when you look at the people around you and you say, I want that and she shouldn't have that. Or you start downplaying the joy and the success in other people's lives because of your desire for it. You can desire something without all of that ickiness attached to it. And that's what jealousy is. That to me is not natural, right? So back to my example of my friends, right? Like, yes, I desire marriage, but being jealous of their marriage, or yes, they might desire, this over here, but being jealous of that over here, like that just never has made sense to me. It just doesn't. And I don't think jealousy is natural. Desire is natural. Jealousy is rooted in insecurity. That is a bigger problem. That means you need to reflect and figure out what about that situation is making you insecure. But if you can't show up for your friends and be happy for them, you need to ask yourself why that is and get to the bottom of it, because it's just not cool. And one of my favorite content creators, y'all might know her, Jackie Aina. I think it was Jackie Aina. It was either Jackie Aina or Any from Any Given Sunday. I don't know if y'all know, right? One of them was talking about how dangerous hate is. Like, to be a hater, we talk about it in like these general terms, but no, like hate drives people to do some crazy things. And so, yeah, if I even get a sniff of someone not being genuinely happy for me and, my success, especially with my past history of like what happened to me in high school, I am very quick to just be like, we cannot be cool. We cannot be friends. You gotta go. You do. Because you have insecurities that are deeper than me, and it's just not cool. And I always believe that what's meant for you will never miss you. So what is the point of being jealous if it's all gonna happen the way it's supposed to happen anyway? You don't know what somebody went through to get where they are. You don't even know what they're going through right now to maintain where they are. But you're spending so much time worked up being jealous about something you don't even know about. Meanwhile, you never know what God has around the corner for you because you're so focused on something that wasn't even meant for you. And then if God puts that in your hands, then what's going to happen? You're not even going to know what to do with it because, again, that's not what was even meant for you in the first place. Those are the things that I think about when I think about people who are jealous, Like I said, desire is natural. Jealousy is nasty. And I think that B. Simone is nasty. I'm not feeling her. What else did I want to talk about when it came to that? And I was going to say, I feel like possibly, now this is a theory, I don't know these people, but the fact that B. Simone obviously does have like this insecurity that shows up in her friendships as jealousy, I think it's possible that maybe that's why she didn't help her friend, right? Because if she's not happy with for her friend when her friend is doing well, she's getting a new man, she's getting a new job, then maybe that's why she kept her resources from assisting her friend when her friend was going through hell. That's why I'm not going to let people get away with this argument that, oh, B. Simone was just putting down boundaries, or B. Simone that no. That's your best friend. That's your community. That's your village. And I think the last thing I was going to say, I already said it. If B. Simone wanted to work with her friend, then why didn't she employ her when her friend was unemployed? So I've already made that point. But I think the overall theme here when it comes to friendships is you have to show up for the people that you love. This is a tough world, a tough world. Life is not easy. It is hell. It is, you have good times, you have the bad times, you have the ups, you have the downs. And the way I define friendship is being there for someone in their village through it all, through every season that you're in. I've been best friends with my best friends for over a decade, And like I said, we have been through it all. We have been through so many seasons and I love it. I love seeing the changes in the seasons of all of my different friendships. My friends are married, they have babies, they're, exploring new jobs and moving different places and just learning about themselves and growing as human beings. And I love it. I absolutely love it. But you don't get that depth in a relationship if you're just there for the good times. You don't get that depth in your relationship with someone if you're just there when they are at the top. That's not realistic. That's not life. And if you are dealing with someone who you feel like every time I pour into this person, they don't reciprocate, so now I feel like I can't pour into people anymore, then you need to ask yourself, is that your friend? Because you should never feel like you shouldn't be in a position where you can be, giving and kind and your full self to someone because they're not going to reciprocate it. Like, don't take those positive qualities away from yourself because you're giving it to someone who is not capable of reciprocating it. You just need to ask yourself, why are you giving it to that person? And find someone else to give it to who will reciprocate that energy. That's how I feel about it. Is that easy? I ain't saying it's easy. I ain't saying it's easy. I'm not saying I'm perfect. Like I said before, I'm currently in a situation, not a situation, but I'm in a season right now where I'm really learning the importance of placing boundaries and speaking up for, just speaking up for I don't even know how to articulate myself right now. That's how much I'm like currently figuring it all out. But I just think that when you're in friendships, it can be complicated, especially when you've known people for very long periods of time. But the most important thing to remember is friends are supposed to be there through it all. And if you love them, if you care for them, then they will be. And if that's not who you're supposed to be friends with, they will show themselves in the very same way that B. Simone was just exposed. Because trust me, girl, she was truly exposed for who she was. And Megan and Ashley, her best friend from the first podcast, like I said, when the podcast ended between them, Megan Ashley didn't even say anything. Like, she literally went on, started doing her own thing, didn't talk about it. And we are seeing in real time the character of both of those people. And we're left to decide and come to our own conclusion as to what went wrong there. But B. Simone's true colors are coming out. And I think that's real life. People's true colors will always come out. So continue to be kind, continue to pour into people. Continue to be kind, continue to show up, continue to be the good person that you are for people who will reciprocate that. And if you feel like you're dealing with people who won't, then cut them off. Cut them off. Let me think. I think that is it. Now, I know this video was long, so if you are still hanging around, shout out to you, because I'm pretty sure you've been sitting here for a while, but I hope that you got something out of this video. I hope that if nothing else, you took away the importance of friendship, but also the complexities of it. And if you have thoughts about anything that I said, please let me know, leave a comment, and make sure that before you completely leave this video, whether you're watching or listening, that you subscribe, that you follow, you do all of the things, because I will be back like clockwork again next week. With that being said, I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you
It's
soon.
everything.